Hello, I'm Darryl Wu, President-elect of My Sister's House Board of Directors.
I'm Angela Lai, Advisory Member of My Sister's House, a nonprofit organization. Today, we will show aspects of healthy and unhealthy relationships, as well as raise the awareness of domestic violence in our community.
We are part of My Sister's House, a Sacramento-based nonprofit organization focusing on serving the needs of Asian and Pacific Islander women and children impacted by domestic violence. My Sister's House provides a culturally appropriate and responsive safe haven and community services. In a continuing effort to spread the word about domestic violence prevention, My Sister's House brings you this special program.
You are watching Healthy Relationships, brought to you by the Office on Violence Against Women.
In past episodes, we have learned of spiritual, emotional, and financial abuse. We have heard of physical abuse, which inflicts pain and bodily injury on its victims. We know that any kind of abuse is a tough subject to talk about. It's harder in our Asian and Pacific Islander communities because of our cultures to save face and keep it in the family. Today's episode on healthy relationships, we will talk about the problems of immigration and the effects it has on our victims of domestic violence.
In our Asian and Pacific Islander communities, it is especially difficult to deal with bad relationships. In this episode, we have a young woman named Liza who talks about the abuse by her husband and struggles of immigration. The lies her husband said to her if she didn't do what he said. He would have her deported, and she would have no financial support. Liza shares her story. Hello, Liza. Thank you for joining us today. How did you meet your husband?
I met my husband when we were, little, and then they went here in America to live here with his dad and family, and I stayed in Philippines, and then after for how many years, his dad contacted my mom. His son is asking for my number, and his dad want to get my number to my mom. So my mom gave my number to his dad. That's why he got my number, and we started, he started courting me by the phone, and we're talking every day. He's calling me. We see each other through webcam. That's it.
How was your relationship when you were dating?
No, actually, when we're talking before, he's really a nice guy. He's really, understanding, thoughtful, every, girl that wanted to, to in one man. And he's religious. That's why I, fell in love with him. And, he's nice. We first got married in Philippines back in 2004. That was our first marriage. And then he went back here. And then after that, things, changed a little bit. He minimized his call. He didn't call me for a couple of days. And then the second, a month. And then I was wondering before what's happening because, he's not usually like that, No, actually, he ended everything. Communication, seeing each other in webcam. I didn't have any communication whatsoever with him. So my parents said just move on. If he didn't want to communicate with you anymore, you need to go on with your life, continue your study. So that's what I did. I went back to school. He started calling me back again. He asked for forgiveness. Slowly, we started to rebuild everything. He's still my husband and I love him. That's why, we got back together.
How did you come to the U.S.?
He wanted me to come here to America to be with him and started our family. The process of my paper is very quick So just need to wait for like months to get, like all of my papers. And I went to hospital to get my physical exam and US Embassy to get my interview. He's an American citizen. He's the one who's fixing my papers, and then he'll send it to me, and then I'm just gonna fill it up and then go to US Embassy and give my paper. And so he's the one who's fixing all my papers. I went to Manila in Philippines to get my ticket, and then I got my ticket and contact him and tell him that I already have my ticket and I'm ready to go and come here.
How was your relationship with your husband when you first came to the US?
At first, we're both very happy because finally, we're together, and because it's hard when you're just talking, like in the phone. We go around, show me the neighborhood, show me different places.
When did you start to have concerns about your marriage?
Oh, I didn't know that my husband got laid off, and he started to act weird because of financial thing. Once in a while, I call my mom in Philippines to ask for a little bit money to support, like us. And then, because I don't have my papers yet, I don't have an identification card, so he's the one who who received the money, because he's the one who have ID and stuff. He didn't give me the money. He just spent the money, and I don't know where he spent all the money that my mom is sending to me.
What happened to your immigration papers?
So when I got here in the US, he took his time and delay of the processing of my papers, my immigration papers. So I got here in the US like August, because I need to process my papers as soon as possible because I only have 90 days. We need to file the I-485 to get my green card, but we don't have enough money to pay for the form. And then my mom and my aunt send me some money to cover everything for me to send the form I can get my green card. After we file the form, things happen, and then I didn't have the chance to wait for my paper. He got really, really crazy. Like one day he started saying bad things about my dad, and I told him to stop the conversation. I just walked out and go inside the room, but he didn't stop. He followed me, and when I turned my back, he punched me at my left shoulder. I went down on the floor. I don't know what happened next.
How were you able to get help?
After that at night, I didn't know that he took all of my papers inside the drawer. And then after that, he wanted me to leave. He threatened me that if I don't leave the house, that things might happen to me. That's the time that I called my aunt right away and told her to get me, because I'm scared he might do something bad. As soon as he know that I left him, he called immigration to withdraw my affidavit of support, that he didn't show up to my interview for getting my green card. So that put me in deportation.
Were you able to get help with your immigration problems, and how long was this process?
Someone told me to go to my sister's house. I talked to one of their staff, and then they helped me and hear my story and give me a lawyer to fix my papers. So my attorney in my sister's house helped me to get through the process, to help me to get out of deportation. She helped me file my VAWA petition so that way I can process my papers. My attorney helped me to process my green card, my working permit, and she even helped me waive my physical exam because I don't have any source of income. I don't have work. So I realized that my previous attorney didn't know anything about domestic violence and immigration law. So I decided to just work with my attorney in my sister's house.
What advice would you give a viewer who is watching this program today?
This is not a short process. It's a long process, and you just need to have a long patience. As long as you know that your story is true and you're honest and true to yourself, it's worth the wait. Kung meron Pilipina na nakakaranas ng parehong pinagdaanan ko, huwag kayong mag-alala kasi meron pa kayong pag-asa katulad ko. Andito ang my sister's house na handang tumulong sa lahat ng nangangailangan ng tulong. Tutulungan nila kayo hanggat sa abot ng kanilang makakaya at hindi nila kayo pababayaan. So, huwag kayong mawala ng pag-asa.
Liza, thank you again for sharing your story with us. When we come back, we will seek advice from an attorney who will explain aspects of immigration law.
Welcome back to Healthy Relationships. We just heard from our special guest Liza, who was brave enough to recognize the signs of abuse and seek help. Now I would like you to meet Liwa, an attorney who volunteers at my sister's house. She will present the different types of relief for victims of domestic violence who need assistance on immigration. Welcome, Liwa. We heard Liza's story. Why are these threats such powerful weapons of abuse and control?
To understand why, you need to know how family-based immigration works in the United States. Generally, unless you were born here, you must come to the United States with a visa. Now, to get a visa, a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident or green card holder must file a petition for their relatives. Now, after the process is started, the U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident must continue to cooperate and comply with the government requirements and requests to complete the process. Unfortunately, abusive spouses will use the immigration process to exert power and control over the spouse.
And what does that abuse look like?
It can look like many things. Some spouses will flat out refuse to file the visa petition. Others may threaten to withdraw the petition, refuse to appear for any immigration interviews, revoke sponsorship, or refuse to file or submit other necessary documents. Some even threaten to call authorities to have the victim deported if she leaves, disobeys, or tries to call the police. Too often, the victim is reminded that she may lose the children or face shame or stigma back home.
Is there immigration relief available to abused immigrants?
Yes. In 1994, Congress passed special immigration protections for abused immigrants under the Violence Against Women Act, or more commonly known as VAWA. The exact remedy depends on the circumstances, and even though the name of the law says women, these forms of relief are available to abused male immigrants as well. Under VAWA, there are 4 forms of immigration relief available. The first is self-petition, the second is battered spouse waiver, the third is cancellation of removal, and the fourth is a U visa. Now, these remedies were specifically created so that an immigrant victim who is in a domestic violence situation can gain lawful status on their own without having to rely on their abusive spouse to help or cooperate.
What exactly does self-petition mean?
The abused immigrant who does not have lawful immigration status can now petition or apply for it on their own. They don't need the permission, cooperation, or support of their abuser. The abuser does not even have to know that the victim even applied for this relief. In fact, the self-petition and entire process is confidential.
And who can self-petition?
It is limited to victims whose abuser is a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. A legal permanent resident is more commonly known as a green card holder. Specifically, abused spouses or children of U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents, or abused parents of an adult U.S. citizen, son or daughter, can self-petition.
What relief is available for a victim who already has lawful status, like a conditional residence?
Conditional residence means the victim actually has lawful status for about 2 years. Before the 2 years end, the couple must file a petition together, called a joint petition, to remove the conditions. For a victim of domestic violence, filing together may not be an option for a number of reasons. In these kinds of cases, the victim does not file a self-petition, and she does not have to stay in the abusive relationship, hoping that one day her spouse will cooperate and file the joint petition. Instead, she might be eligible for a battered spouse waiver.
What is a battered spouse waiver?
Basically, it means the joint requirement may be waived if the victim can show that she or her child had been abused by her husband.
Now, what if an abused immigrant is already in danger of being removed or deported from the United States?
For an abused immigrant who is already in immigration court and in removal proceedings, the actual relief will depend upon the circumstances. But in general, an immigrant victim might have the option to apply for a VAWA cancellation of removal. If granted, the removal is canceled and the victim is granted lawful permanent residence.
You have spoken a lot about victims who are married to U.S. citizens or green card holders. Is there any help for victims whose abuser is not a U.S. citizen or a green card holder?
Yes, there is. Now, an abused immigrant who is not married to a U.S. citizen or green card holder cannot file a VAWA self-petition, but she can apply for a U visa. The U visa relief was created in 2000 for victims of crimes, including domestic violence, who are willing to help in the criminal investigation or prosecution of perpetrators.
What happens after these remedies are approved?
The specific benefits will vary with each remedy, but in general, after approval, the victim will have some protection from deportation, will be eligible to work legally, and will have the opportunity to become a legal permanent resident or U.S. citizen down the road.
So what should an immigrant victim do if they need help or think they qualify for any of these forms of immigration relief?
Immigration law is very complex and constantly changing, and each relief that I mentioned has requirements too detailed and complicated to cover all of them. So a victim should consult a reputable immigration attorney or contact My Sister's House at 916-428-3271.
Is there anything else that immigrant victims need to know?
Yes. First, you can call the police. The police will help regardless of your immigration status. If needed, the police will get an interpreter. Second, abuse is a crime. What you are suffering is wrong and you do not have to endure it. Last, you are not alone. We're here to help. You can call My Sister's House at 916-428-3271. A trained advocate may be able to give you options or provide shelter if needed.
Thank you, Liwa, for sharing with us your experience and expertise. When we come back, we shall seek the advice from an advocate with experience in working with survivors and victims of domestic violence.
I sat down with Reggie, an advocate of My Sister's House. She works closely with victims of domestic violence who have immigration issues. Reggie, we just heard Liza's story. Please tell us, how unique is her story?
For victims of domestic violence who are also immigrants, this story is not unique.
Can you tell us if there are any differences in an immigrant's experience of a bad relationship?
Domestic violence is a complex problem. Immigrating to a completely new and unfamiliar country can be difficult and traumatic experience. Together, the problem of domestic violence and the effect of abuse on immigrant victims are complicated and magnified. Immigrant victims of domestic violence face many additional barriers that prevent from seeking help from the abuse. First, there could be a language barrier. Second, An immigrant victim might have a lack of knowledge of their rights or how to access services. Alternatively, the victim may have a complete misunderstanding about everything because the abuser has lied to her about her rights, the laws, and the culture, among other things. Third, there are cultural barriers preventing an immigrant victim from escaping abuse. For example, there could be pressure to maintain family reputation or honor. Or there is a pressure and belief that family matters are to be kept private without outside interference. There is also deep-seated and long-standing stigma attached to either reporting the abuse or divorcing one's spouse. In some Asian countries, divorce is still unaccepted, and the threats and abuse they suffer are not considered crimes back in their home countries. Last but certainly not least, an immigrant victim may have fear of law enforcement. This fear can stem from many sources. The fear could be based on how law enforcement operates back in the home country. It could come from incorrect information from the abuser. With law enforcement, there also looms the fear of deportation. And with deportation comes the stress of being separated from their children. But it is important to know that the police will help you regardless of your immigration status. For immigrant victims of domestic violence, these immigration-related threats keep them from seeking help and keep them suffering from an abusive relationship.
What do you want people to remember?
If you, a relative, friend, or neighbor are concerned, be sure to call my sister's house at 916-428-3271. Sa tanang mga kababaihang Pilipina nga nakakita niining programa, kung kamo dunay problema sa imigrasyon o pang-abuso sa inyong mga bana, paryente, palihog tawag sa my sister's house sa 916-428-3271.
Thank you, Reggie. We'd especially like to thank today's guests, Liza and Liwa and Reggie. Also, we would like to give a special thank you to the Office of Violence Against Women for making this episode possible, and to the Crossing staff for the technical assistance.
Mark your calendars for My Sister's House Gala on May 14th at the Crest Theater. For more details, please visit our website at www.my-sisters-house.org. Thank you for watching this episode of Healthy Relationships.